My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 29 years old, a teacher from Denver, Colorado. Until 3 months ago, I lived what most would consider a normal life, teaching 5th grade, spending weekends with friends, and dealing with the usual stresses that come with modern living. I never considered myself particularly religious, though I believed in something greater than ourselves. I certainly never imagined that a single moment could completely transform my understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond. On September 15th, 2024, everything changed. What I'm about to share with you isn't just my story. It's a message I was specifically told to deliver. If you're reading this, I believe it's no coincidence. Please stay with me until the end, because what I experienced wasn't just for me. It was for all of us. The day, everything changed. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind that makes you grateful to be alive. I was driving to work earlier than usual, planning to prepare for a parent-teacher conference. The roads were nearly empty, and I was enjoying the peaceful morning commute while listening to my favorite podcast. The sun was just beginning to paint the sky in soft pastels, and I remember thinking how beautiful the world looked. That's when I saw the deer. It appeared suddenly from the wooded area alongside the highway, frozen in my headlights like a statue. In that split second, time seemed to slow down. I had a choice: swerve and potentially hit the trees, or try to brake and hope for the best. I chose to swerve. The next few seconds are etched into my memory with crystal clarity, yet they feel like they happened to someone else. My car skidded across the wet pavement, spun twice, and slammed into a massive oak tree. The sound was deafening, metal crushing, glass shattering, and then silence. Between worlds. The pain was overwhelming at first, but then something extraordinary happened. It began to fade, not gradually, but all at once, as if someone had simply turned it off. My breathing, which had been labored and panicked, became calm and steady. The frantic beating of my heart slowed to a peaceful rhythm. I tried to move, but realized I couldn't feel my body anymore. Instead of panic, I felt an inexplicable sense of release, as if I was finally letting go of something I'd been carrying for years without realizing it. The sounds of the crash, the hissing steam, the settling metal, the distant approach of sirens, all began to fade into a profound quiet. In that quiet, memories began to surface. Not random memories, but specific moments that seemed to glow with significance. I saw myself at 7, comforting a crying classmate who had fallen on the playground. I remembered staying late after school to help struggling students, the satisfaction of seeing understanding dawn in a child's eyes, the times I'd chosen kindness over convenience. But I also saw the times I'd failed, the harsh words spoken in anger, the opportunities to help that I'd walked past, the moments when fear had made me smaller than I was meant to be. Yet somehow, even these memories didn't bring shame. They brought understanding, as if I was seeing my life through eyes of infinite compassion. The air around me began to shimmer, and I felt myself becoming lighter, as if gravity had loosened its hold on me. I looked down and saw my car, wrapped around the oak tree like a crumpled piece of paper. Emergency vehicles were arriving, their lights painting the scene in red and blue. I could see my body in the driver's seat, and for a moment I felt sorry for the paramedics who would have to deal with such a mess. But I felt no attachment to that broken form below. It was like looking at a set of clothes I'd outgrown and finally had permission to take off. The ascension. I began to rise, not by any effort of my own, but as if I was being gently lifted by invisible hands. I passed through the roof of my car, above the trees, above the highway where more emergency vehicles were gathering. The world grew smaller beneath me, and with that perspective came a profound sense of peace. Everything that had seemed so important, my lesson plans, my mortgage payments, the argument I'd had with my sister last week, all of it became insignificant, like worrying about dust on furniture in a house you're about to leave forever. As I rose higher, I became aware of a light ahead of me. It wasn't the harsh, blinding light you might expect, but something warm and welcoming, like the golden hour just before sunset, but infinitely more beautiful. The light seemed to pulse with life itself, and I felt drawn to it like a flower turning toward the sun. I entered what I can only describe as a tunnel, though that word seems inadequate. It was more like being embraced by pure love that had taken physical form. The walls, if they could be called walls, were alive with colors I'd never seen before. Colors that don't exist in our world, that don't have names. As I moved through this passage, I began to see scenes from my life playing out around me, but not just my own experiences. I saw the ripple effects of every action I'd ever taken. That smile I'd given to a stranger at the grocery store had brightened their entire day, leading them to be kinder to their family, which had prevented an argument that would have scarred their child's memory. I saw how the thank you note I'd written to a substitute teacher had come at exactly the moment she was questioning whether her work mattered. But I also saw the negative ripples. The day I'd snapped at a student in frustration had planted a seed of self-doubt that took years to overcome. The gossip I'd shared about a colleague had damaged relationships I wasn't even aware of. Nothing was hidden. Every thought, every intention, every consequence was laid bare. Yet instead of judgment, I felt overwhelming understanding and forgiveness. It was as if I was being shown these things not to condemn me, but to help me understand the incredible responsibility and power of every human life, the presence. As I emerged from the tunnel, I found myself in a place that defies description. Imagine the most beautiful natural setting you've ever seen. Combine it with the most magnificent architecture, add colors and sounds that don't exist on Earth, and you might begin to approach what I experienced. But even that falls short. The light here wasn't coming from any visible source. It seemed to emanate from everything, as if every atom was infused with gentle radiance. The air itself hummed with what I can only call pure love, so thick and real I could almost touch it. And then I saw him. He appeared gradually, as if the light itself was taking form. I knew immediately who he was, though he looked nothing like the paintings and statues I'd seen in churches. He was both completely human and utterly divine. Familiar yet awesome beyond words. His eyes were what struck me most. They held depths I'd never imagined possible. In them, I saw every star in the universe, every tear that had ever been shed, every moment of joy that had ever been experienced. They were eyes that had witnessed all of history, yet looked at me as if I was the only person who had ever existed. When he smiled, it was like watching the sun rise for the first time. Not just light, but warmth, welcome, and a love so complete that every ache in my soul, aches I didn't even know I carried, was instantly healed. He didn't speak with words, but I heard his voice more clearly than I'd ever heard anything. It resonated not just in my ears, but in every fiber of my being. "Sarah," he said, and in my name, I heard how precious I was to him. "My beloved daughter, welcome home." I wanted to run to him, to throw myself into his arms like a child, but I found myself rooted in place by the sheer magnitude of his presence. This was the one I'd wondered about, the one I'd sometimes doubted, the one I'd tried to understand through books and sermons and quiet moments of prayer. And he was more real, more alive, more loving than any human concept could contain. The life review. He gestured, and suddenly we were surrounded by what I can only describe as a living movie of my life. But this wasn't just my perspective. I experienced every moment from multiple viewpoints. I felt what others had felt because of my actions. I understood the far-reaching consequences of choices I'd thought were insignificant. When I was 12 and had defended a girl being bullied at school, I not only relived my own courage and fear, but I felt the victim's relief and gratitude, the bully's shame and eventual growth, and even the impact on bystanders who learned something about standing up for others. But I also experienced the pain I'd caused. The time I'd ignored an elderly neighbor who was struggling with groceries because I was running late. I felt her disappointment and loneliness. The occasions when I'd been judgmental or unkind, I experienced the hurt from the other person's perspective. Through it all, he never condemned me. Instead, he helped me understand. Every soul is on a journey, he explained. What matters is not perfection, but the direction of your heart. Did you learn? Did you grow? Did you choose love, even imperfectly? I saw that my life, like everyone's, was a tapestry woven with threads of both light and shadow. The mistakes and failures weren't separate from the love and growth. They were part of it. Opportunities for learning and redemption that made the beautiful moments even more precious. This is why you came to Earth, he continued. Not to be perfect, but to learn to choose love in the face of fear, to find light in the darkness, to grow closer to who you were always meant to be. The bondings, but then. His expression grew more serious, though the love never left his eyes. I sensed that he was about to share something of great importance, something that would be difficult to hear but necessary to understand. "Sarah," he said, "I have shown you these things not just for your own understanding, but because I have a message for you to carry back. The world you know is approaching a time of great testing, not as punishment but as an opportunity for profound awakening." Suddenly, visions began to unfold before me with startling clarity. I saw the Earth as if from space, beautiful and blue, but I could sense an underlying tension, like a string stretched almost to its breaking point. There will be 3 signs, he explained. 3 warnings given in mercy before a time of great spiritual darkness falls upon the world. These are not meant to frighten, but to prepare. Those who recognize the signs and prepare their hearts will find peace even in the storm. The first sign, the great unease. The first vision opened before me like a window into the near future. I saw the world as it is today. Bustling cities, people absorbed in their daily routines, technology connecting and dividing humanity in equal measure. But then something shifted. It began subtly. People waking up with an inexplicable sense of anxiety, a feeling that something was off, though they couldn't identify what. Animals behaving strangely, pets becoming restless, birds changing their migration patterns, livestock growing agitated without apparent cause. Weather patterns that defied explanation began appearing worldwide. Not just unusual weather, but phenomena that seemed to bend natural laws. Skies taking on colors that didn't match any known atmospheric conditions, temperatures fluctuating wildly without meteorological cause, the very air feeling different, thicker, charged with an energy that made people uneasy. This is the first sign, he explained. Creation itself will rebel against the spiritual darkness that has grown in the world. The earth will cry out, and every sensitive soul will feel it. This is mercy, a warning that change is coming and that it's time to examine what truly matters. In the vision, I saw how different people responded to this cosmic unease. Some dismissed it, attributing everything to climate change, solar flares, or mass hysteria. They buried themselves deeper in distractions, social media, entertainment, busy work, anything to avoid confronting the growing sense that something profound was happening. But others responded differently. I watched families gathering to pray together for the first time in years. I saw neighbors reaching out to check on each other, offering help without being asked. Churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples saw increased attendance as people sought comfort and understanding. Scientists scrambled for explanations, but their instruments couldn't measure what was essentially a spiritual phenomenon. The unease wasn't just in the air, it was in the collective consciousness of humanity, a shared intuition that an era was ending and something new was beginning. Those who listened to their hearts during this time, he continued, will begin to prepare not just physically, but spiritually. They will examine their relationships, seek forgiveness, offer reconciliation, and turn their attention to eternal things. But those who harden their hearts will become more fearful, more angry, more desperate to control what cannot be controlled. I saw protests and riots breaking out over seemingly minor issues, as the underlying spiritual tension found expression in human conflict. Political divisions deepened, not because of policy differences, but because people were unconsciously choosing sides in a spiritual battle they didn't fully understand. Yet throughout it all, there were points of light, individuals and communities who responded to the growing darkness by becoming more loving, more generous, more focused on what truly mattered. They were like candles being lit one by one, creating networks of hope in an increasingly anxious world. This first sign will last for a season, he told me. Some will use this time wisely, preparing their hearts and helping others do the same. But others will waste this gift of warning, becoming more entrenched in fear and selfishness. The second sign, the great separation. The second vision was more intense, showing me a world in the grip of profound division. But this wasn't the political or social divisions we're familiar with. This was something deeper, a separation of souls based on their response to truth itself. I saw families torn apart, not over politics or money, but over fundamental questions of meaning and morality. Children estranged from parents, spouses unable to understand each other, lifelong friends becoming enemies over what seemed like minor disagreements, but were actually profound differences in spiritual orientation. This is the second sign, he explained sadly. A great separation will occur. The true nature of every heart will be revealed through trials and difficulties. Some will choose faith, hope, and love, even in the face of suffering. Others will choose bitterness, despair, and hatred. The trials I witnessed were both external and internal. Economic hardships that forced people to choose between hoarding resources and sharing with those in need. Natural disasters that revealed whether communities would come together or fall apart. Personal crises, illness, loss, betrayal, that either deepened people's compassion or hardened their hearts beyond recognition. What struck me most was how the same circumstances produced completely different responses in different people. I watched 2 neighbors lose their jobs on the same day. One became consumed with anger and blame, while the other used the opportunity to reassess priorities and strengthen family bonds. 2 families faced the death of a loved one. One was destroyed by grief and turned away from faith, while the other found deeper meaning and reached out to comfort others in similar pain. This separation is necessary, he continued, though I could sense his sorrow at the necessity. For too long, the wheat and the weeds have grown together. But there comes a time when each soul must choose what it truly loves, light or darkness, truth or deception, selflessness or selfishness. In my vision, I saw institutions failing as their true foundations were tested. Some churches thrived as they returned to their essential mission of love and service, while others crumbled as their focus on power and wealth was exposed. Governments struggled as their legitimacy was questioned, with some leaders rising to serve with genuine humility, while others grasped for control with increasing desperation. The media landscape became increasingly polarized, not just between different viewpoints, but between those who sought to inform and unite versus those who sought to inflame and divide. Social media platforms became battlegrounds where the fight for human souls played out in comment threads and viral videos. But throughout this chaos, I saw something beautiful emerging. Communities of genuine believers, not just in religion, but in the fundamental goodness of humanity and the reality of divine love, began to form. These weren't exclusive groups, but open networks of people committed to truth, compassion, and service regardless of their previous backgrounds or beliefs. These communities became havens of peace in an increasingly chaotic world. They shared resources, protected the vulnerable, and maintained hope when everyone else seemed to be losing theirs. They were recognizable not by what they said, but by how they lived, with generosity, forgiveness, courage, and joy even in difficult circumstances. During this time of separation, he told me, my true followers will be revealed not by their words or their affiliations, but by their fruits. They will be known for their love, their peace, and their willingness to sacrifice for others. The third sign, the final call. The third vision was the most intense and heartbreaking of all. I saw a world that had largely divided itself into 2 camps, those who had chosen light and those who had chosen darkness, with fewer and fewer people remaining undecided. This is the third and final sign, he said, his voice heavy with both love and sorrow. Before the 3 days of darkness come, I will make one last appeal to every human heart. No soul will be able to say they were not given a final chance to choose. What I witnessed defied natural explanation. Across the globe, simultaneously, every person would experience a moment of profound spiritual clarity. It wasn't the same experience for everyone, but each person would encounter whatever they most needed to understand the choice before them. Some would see visions of their lives from an eternal perspective, understanding for the first time how their choices had affected others and what truly mattered. Others would experience profound dreams or encounters with deceased loved ones who would plead with them to choose love over hatred, forgiveness over revenge, hope over despair. The hardest of hearts would feel an unexpected moment of tenderness, a glimpse of the child they once were before life had wounded them, a memory of a time when they had loved purely and been purely loved. The most cynical minds would experience a moment of wonder that pierced through years of protective skepticism. This will be my final gift of mercy, he explained. Every soul will receive exactly what they need to make an informed choice about eternity. Some will recognize this gift and respond with gratitude and repentance. Others will reject even this final appeal and harden their hearts beyond redemption. In the vision, I watched people's responses to this universal experience. Some fell to their knees in tears, finally understanding what they had been running from their entire lives. They sought out people they had wronged, made peace with estranged family members, and turned their attention to preparing for whatever was to come. But others responded with anger and denial. They attributed the experience to mass hysteria, solar flares, or government mind control experiments. They doubled down on their chosen path of selfishness and hatred, seeing any call to love as a threat to their autonomy. Religious leaders found themselves divided just like everyone else. Some recognized this as the fulfillment of prophecy and called their congregations to deeper faith and service. Others rejected it as deception and led their followers further into darkness. Scientists and philosophers struggled to explain what had happened, with some acknowledging that reality was far more mysterious than they had ever imagined, while others constructed elaborate theories to avoid confronting the spiritual implications. After this final call, he told me, there will be a brief period of intense polarization. Those who have chosen light will shine more brightly than ever, while those who have chosen darkness will become darker than they have ever been. And then will come the 3 days. The 3 days of darkness. He didn't show me details of the 3 days themselves, but I understood that this would be a period of profound spiritual testing, unlike anything in human history. It would be dark not just physically, but spiritually, a time when the very foundations of reality would seem to shake, when faith would be tested to its absolute limit. During these 3 days, he explained, those who have prepared their hearts will find supernatural peace and protection. They will be lights in the darkness, beacons of hope for anyone still seeking truth. But those who have rejected my final call will experience the full consequences of their choice. I understood that this wasn't arbitrary punishment, but the natural result of spiritual choices. Just as physical bodies die when separated from oxygen, souls would experience death when separated from the source of all life and love. But even then, he added, his voice brightening, my mercy will not be completely withdrawn. There will still be opportunities for repentance for those who truly seek it. No soul who genuinely turns to me will ever be rejected, no matter how late they're turning. The commission. As the visions faded, I found myself once again in that place of indescribable beauty, standing before the one whose love had transformed my understanding of everything. But I sensed that our time together was coming to an end. Sarah, he said, his eyes holding mine with infinite compassion, you must return now. You have been given these visions not just for yourself, but to share with anyone who will listen. Tell them that my love is real, that my warnings are true, and that it is never too late to turn their hearts toward me. I felt a desperate desire to stay, to remain in this place where love was the very air I breathed, where every question was answered and every wound was healed. But I also felt a growing sense of purpose, an understanding that I had work to do in the world I had left behind. How will I convince them? I asked. Who will believe such a story? His smile filled me with confidence. You will not convince anyone through your words alone, but those who are meant to hear will recognize the truth in your experience, and you will not be alone. Others have been given similar visions and messages. Together, you will prepare as many hearts as possible for what is coming. He reached out and touched my forehead, and I felt a download of understanding that I somehow knew would unfold over time. Knowledge of how to prepare, both practically and spiritually. Wisdom about how to share this message without causing panic, but with appropriate urgency. And most importantly, an unshakable certainty that everything he had shown me was absolutely true. The return. The transition back was gentler than I expected. Instead of the violent pulling sensation I might have anticipated, I felt like I was being carefully lowered back into my physical body, like a precious object being placed in a protective case. The first sensation was pain, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual pain, as I was once again cut off from that perfect love, that complete understanding, that overwhelming peace. It was like being thrust into winter after basking in eternal spring. But along with the pain came purpose. Even as my body struggled to heal from the accident, my spirit was energized by the mission I had been given. Every breath was a gift, every day an opportunity to fulfill the commission I had received. The doctors called my recovery miraculous. My injuries should have been fatal. Massive internal bleeding, severe head trauma, a broken spine. Yet within weeks, I was not only alive, but healing at a rate that baffled medical professionals. I knew it was because my work wasn't finished yet. Sharing the message. It took me months to find the courage to share what I had experienced. How do you describe colors that don't exist to people who have never seen them? How do you convey the reality of divine love to those who have never felt it? How do you warn people about coming darkness without terrifying them into despair? But gradually, I began to speak. First to close friends and family, then to small groups, and finally to anyone who would listen. The responses varied wildly. Some dismissed me as delusional, suffering from brain injury or seeking attention. Others listened politely but clearly didn't believe. But a surprising number responded with recognition. They had been sensing something too, feeling that same cosmic unease I had witnessed in the visions. I wasn't the only one. As I began sharing my story, I discovered others who had received similar messages through near-death experiences, visions, dreams, and deep prayer. We found each other across the globe, drawn together by a shared understanding of what was coming and what needed to be done. We weren't trying to start a new religion or claim special status. We were simply fulfilling the commission we had been given, to warn, to prepare, and to offer hope to anyone who would receive it. The signs begin. As I write this, nearly 6 months after my experience, I'm beginning to see the first signs of what I was shown. The inexplicable unease is growing stronger. Weather patterns are becoming more erratic in ways that don't match any climate models. Animals are behaving strangely worldwide, and people everywhere are reporting a sense that something is coming, though they can't define what. Some are responding exactly as I was shown, coming together in prayer, examining their relationships, seeking forgiveness, and offering reconciliation. Churches are seeing increased attendance, not from people seeking entertainment, but from souls hungry for truth and meaning. But I'm also seeing the negative responses I was warned about: increased anxiety manifesting as anger and division, people becoming more extreme in their positions, a growing polarization that goes beyond politics into the realm of fundamental worldview. The separation has begun. A call to preparation. I share this story not to frighten, but to prepare. If what I experienced is true, and I know with absolute certainty that it is, then we are living in the most crucial time in human history. The choices we make now, both individually and collectively, will determine not just our earthly future, but our eternal destiny. Preparation isn't primarily about stockpiling food or building shelters, though practical wisdom is always good. The most important preparation is spiritual, examining your heart, seeking truth, choosing love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, hope over despair. If you have relationships that need healing, heal them now. If there are wrongs you need to make them right now. If you have been running from spiritual truth, stop running now. The time of casual spirituality is ending. Soon we will all have to choose what we really believe and who we really serve. The message of hope. But this isn't ultimately a message of doom. It's a message of incredible hope. Yes, difficult times are coming. Yes, choices will become more stark and consequences more immediate. But the same power that created the universe, the same love that sustains every living thing, is available to anyone who genuinely seeks it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to clean up your entire life before approaching the divine. You just have to be willing to open your heart, to choose light over darkness, to trust that love is stronger than fear. The God I met in that place beyond life is not the harsh judge that some religious traditions portray, nor the distant force that secular philosophy imagines. He is a loving father who wants nothing more than to welcome every one of his children home. He is patient, kind, forgiving, and more eager to save than to condemn, but he will not force anyone to choose him. The gift of free will is too precious, the nature of love too pure to be coerced. In the end, we all get what we choose. Not what we say we choose, but what our hearts truly desire when all pretense is stripped away. A personal invitation. If you've read this far, I believe it's because something in your spirit recognizes the truth of what I'm sharing. That recognition is itself a gift, a sign that you are being called to prepare, to choose, to align yourself with the light before the darkness falls. Don't wait for the signs to become more obvious. Don't assume you'll have more time to decide. The window of opportunity is open now, but it will not remain open forever. The final call is coming, but it's better to respond to the gentle invitation than to wait for the urgent warning. Start where you are, with what you have. If you don't know how to pray, begin with honesty. Tell God exactly where you are and ask for help. If you don't understand spiritual things, ask for wisdom. If you're carrying pain or anger, ask for healing. If you're afraid, ask for courage. The same Jesus who met me in that place of perfect love is available to meet you wherever you are. He's not waiting for you to become worthy. He's waiting to make you worthy through his own goodness. He's not demanding that you understand everything. He's offering to teach you what you need to know. The time is now. I can't tell you exactly when the signs will become undeniable, when the separation will be complete, when the final call will come, or when the 3 days will begin. What I can tell you is that the time to prepare is now, today, this moment. Every day you delay is a day lost, an opportunity wasted, a chance at deeper preparation that won't come again. But every day you choose to move toward light is a day gained, a step closer to peace, a movement toward the purpose for which you were born. The harvest is coming and time is short. But there is still time. There is still hope. There is still an abundance of love waiting for anyone willing to receive it. The question isn't whether these things will happen. They will. The question is whether you'll be ready when they do. Whether you'll be among those who shine as lights in the darkness or among those who are overcome by it. Whether you'll be a source of hope for others or a casualty of despair. That choice is yours. It's always been yours. And it's the most important choice you'll ever make. Choose love, choose light, choose life. The time is now. This account was given to me during my near-death experience on September 15th, 2024. I share it not as entertainment, but as a sacred trust. May it find fertile ground in hearts that are ready to receive it. And may it accomplish the purpose for which it was given, to prepare as many souls as possible for what is coming, and to offer hope to all who seek it. If this message has touched your heart, I encourage you to examine your own spiritual condition, to seek truth wherever it may be found, and to prepare your heart for the choices that lie ahead. The days may grow dark, but remember, the light shines brightest in the darkness, and no darkness can ever overcome it. May you find peace, hope, and courage for whatever comes.